Hey guys, we're going to be going over the CONCACAF Octagonal qualifying for the World Cup 2022 in Qatar. We're going to be going over the two previous matches that happened in this round of qualifying and previewing the third game coming up this Wednesday, September 8th, 2021. This year, as you guys know, is a new format. Previous qualifying final stages were the hexagonal, where it was 6 teams. Each team played everyone once, home and away, making it 10 games overall. This year is different. Two more teams added to the final stage. Now it's called the octagonal, 8, and each team's gonna be playing one home, one away, making a total of 14 matches. Of the 14 matches, there are possible 42 points. All right, we're gonna be looking at the results of the first game. Canada tied with Honduras at home 1-1. Panama tied at home with Costa Rica 0-0. Mexico pulled out a late victory against Jamaica 2-1. El Salvador and United States drew 0-0. All right, second round. Jamaica lost at home to Panama 3-0. Costa Rica lost at home to Mexico 1-0. And El Salvador tied with Honduras 0-0. And United States and Canada tied 1-1. Okay, which means at this stage of the qualification round, Mexico sits at the top of the group with 6 points. Panama in second with 4. Canada, Honduras, United States, and El Salvador with 2 points. And the bottom two at the moment, Costa Rica in 7th and Jamaica in 8th with Costa Rica with 1 point and Jamaica with 0 points. One of the standouts of this qualification round is how COVID has affected the rosters of each team. The most notable one is Jamaica not being able to travel at least 11 to 12 players from England to go play against Mexico in Estadio Azteca for COVID reasons. Raul Jimenez wasn't able to go to the game as well because of that. It's going to be interesting to see how each roster, each country, is affected by these new COVID protocols that have been set in place by each respective country. Also, it will be interesting to see how coaches handle this COVID situation. Notably, Weston McKennie was drafted in the United States national team squad for the match against Canada for violating COVID protocols. And that was U.S. men's national team head coach Berhalter's choice for McKennie violating team protocols, not CONCACAF COVID protocols. So it'll be interesting to see how each coach handles each respective protocol for each respective nation. A big talking point in this final stage of the octagonal is that there will be no VAR used in any of these 14 games. The reason being is not all of these stadiums are equipped for VAR. Personally, I think it's a bad thing. I think technology in the game is always going to be beneficial. Sometimes we like it, sometimes we don't. We say maybe from a centimeter he was offside, centimeter he was onside. They didn't mark this penalty, they marked that one. But overall, I think it's a good thing to use technology and have VAR, and I think it's a big disappointment that VAR is not going to be able to be used in these qualifying rounds, because you never know. It might be 1 point, a penalty that didn't get called that on VAR would have been called in the final game of a Mexico-Honduras, that Honduras doesn't make the World Cup, that Costa Rica doesn't make the World Cup, that a Panama doesn't make it. A lot of things can happen, a lot of storylines could be written, and I think not having VAR is a big mistake, and it could all end up costing one of these countries a ticket to the World Cup. The other standout for this first couple games of the qualifying match is how even everything is. Every team looks very even. It seems like it's going to be like that for the rest of the qualification rounds for the next 12 games. I expect it to be very close. I don't think it's going to be where one team, whether it's Mexico, United States, Canada, whatever team you think is favored to go to the World Cup, is just going to run away with it, and the rest of the teams are just going to be struggling to catch up on points to get whatever fourth place playoff contention they can receive. If the last qualifiers have showed us anything, it's that the favorites are no longer the favorites. The distances have shortened. So far, after 2 games, Mexico's at the top with 6 points. Everyone else is tied with either 2 points or 1 point. For me, I don't expect Mexico to continue riding this winning form. They're not playing well at all. They've been, I don't want to say lucky, because they've been looking to get the wins in every game. So in a sense, it's deserved. But they have not been playing well or up to any standard that they've played from before. In my opinion, this is one of the worst Mexican teams I've seen in the last 20 years. Mexico continues to struggle in front of goal for obvious reasons. Their goal talisman, Raul Jimenez, with his head injury that he received last season in a game against Arsenal in the Premier League, they have been struggling to replace him. Or as many believe, as I do as well, that the player that Tata Martino is replacing Raul Jimenez with, Funes Mori, is not up to standard for the Mexican national team. I personally would rather see a Henry Martin or another Mexican national play in that position, because I don't see Funes Mori as that much better than anyone else. Panama is surprising everyone so far. I know it's only 2 games, but no one expected them to beat Jamaica away from home. And after the first game against Costa Rica, their level of play did not seem that high for Panama. So right now they sit second in the group behind Mexico. Panama's qualified for their first World Cup in 2018 Russia, and they're starting off strong in these first two games of this octagonal round. Canada's golden generation dropped 2 points in the first game of the octagonal against Honduras, against a strong Honduran side, and they also gained a point away from home against the United States, while Honduras also gained a point away against El Salvador. In my opinion, Honduras is a strong candidate to make the World Cup. They started off the first two games away from home and have picked up points and not lost a game. A big topic so far is the United States struggles in these first two games. It comes as a surprise to many. Personally, it's not too much of a surprise for me. The United States is stacked with talent, players that play in the top leagues, best teams in the world, but they're also very young players, and they have never played in an environment that was as hostile as Central America. It's not a surprise to me that they go to El Salvador. I guess theoretically pick up a good point away from home, but also struggle at home against Canada. These World Cup qualifiers are going to really be a stepping stone for a lot of these young players, these young American players, to really show what they're made of. I'm not convinced that they're not going to make the World Cup just yet, but I'm also not totally convinced that they are. I still want to see how they're going to react in this next game against Honduras and see if they can manage to fight off the pressure and win away from home. These games are very different to playing in the Nations League and to the Gold Cup. Winning those two trophies was very good for the United States men's national team, brought a lot of confidence, but these World Cup qualifiers, not just in CONCACAF but around the world, are extremely difficult. Every game is cutthroat. Teams are going out there bleeding for points and doing whatever they can and take any little advantage they can to make the World Cup. Not having VAR is a big mistake, and it could all end up costing one of these countries a ticket to the World Cup. And now the part I was dreading to talk about, Costa Rica. As a Costa Rican fan, I know better than anyone how bad my team is. These first two games have not changed my mind at all, or changed the minds of really anyone in the country thinking that we're not going to make the World Cup. At this point, I'm still convinced that we're not going to make the World Cup. Not because of the coach isn't good enough, not because there might not be good enough players, but because, in my opinion, the Federation has messed up these last 3 years, 3 to 4 years, in their administrative decisions that have led to the results of what are going on in the field today. There's players that we should not having to be relied on. Brian Ruiz, Celso Borges, players that might be doing good for their club teams, but when they come to the national team, don't really do anything and don't add anything beneficial to the team. David Guzman, Yeltsin Tejeda, Randall Leal. I love Randall Leal, but he hasn't really shown anything when it comes to the national team. Costa Rica, the big thing is we don't score goals. We don't even create a chance. In these two games of these qualifiers, we've only had 2 shots on goal. We didn't have any shots on goal against Panama. None. And against Mexico, we had one with Brian from a nice play set up by Randall Leal to Brian Ruiz. And then at the very end, we decided that we had to score a goal when we were losing. And a little miss hit by Keisher Fuller that by some miracle hit the post that cost us a point, which we really didn't deserve to get. To be honest, we deserved to lose 3-4, 5-6-0. But Mexico, for whatever reason, is not doing well either. And the only difference is that a bad Mexico team is not as bad as a bad Costa Rica team. The absence of a healthy Joel Campbell is extremely noticeable. In the one half he's played in these first 2 games, he's been our most threatening player, but he can't do it on his own. At this point, I believe Costa Rica needs to call certain players that they're really not going to get any worse by calling them, and if anything, we should be building with young players like Myron George, players like David Vega, players like Marvin Loria in the MLS. I would even throw into the hat Ulises Segura, who I've never seen play in the national team in these past 4, 5, 6 years. He was played regularly in the MLS. I think we need to start thinking about playing without Brian Ruiz or Celso Borges, that in my opinion, though they've done great things in the past and you cannot take anything from that, today they're not adding anything to the team and it's becoming more detrimental to have them on the field than off. Having players like Brian Ruiz and Celso Borges and players 32 and up has slowed down the pace of the game for Costa Rica. There's players like Luis Diaz, who's a speedster on that right wing, players like Alonso Martinez, who in my opinion has been one of the best players to come out of Costa Rica in the last 5 years. These are the type of players that we should be implementing into the team and helping build the squad. We might not make the World Cup this year, but we can build for the future in 2026. Let's not waste these opportunities wasting our time with players like Brian Ruiz and Celso Borges and all these other aging players that aren't going to get us anywhere in the near future. There's one more game left in this round of octagonal fixtures. For Canada, El Salvador, I think Canada's going to finally pull through and get the 3 points at home. Panama, Mexico should be a tight affair. I think Panama either will get a win or they'll sneak a draw away from Mexico. For Costa Rica, Jamaica, I hope we win. I hope, because that's all we have. Just hope. And I hope that we could miraculously pull something off and get 4 points out of a possible 9 of these first 3 games. And finally, Honduras against the United States. I think this is going to be another very, very close game. I don't know if Honduras is capable of beating the United States, even though they're at home, but I'm also not sure if the United States will be able to pull off a victory away from home. I expect this to be a draw. We'll check in again after this third game of qualifiers. And once the international break is over, we'll be covering some of Europe's top leagues. Saludos a todos en Costa Rica, saludos a Pérez Celedón, a la familia Cubillo, a la familia Sandía, a la familia Durán. Pura vida.